Hello everyone, I'm back for another update. Today is Thursday, March 30th, 2023. I'm on another hike here. Thankful I am able to do a hike today. Reason being, I got bit by a Great Pyrenees dog the neighbor farmer has down the street, and he tried to take a bite out of my calf as I was riding my bicycle past. I've had problems with these dogs being left out on the loose. They're not very friendly dogs, and so thankfully this happened 2 days ago, and I came out with just a couple of bite marks through the skin on my calf, and so far I'm okay. No sign of infection. The wounds are bandaged up, and I am out on a hike, so hopefully I will heal up. I did call the authorities. The animal warden put the dogs into quarantine and gave the owner a summons because she could not provide records that the dogs were vaccinated. She does claim that they were, but didn't have access to the records to show it to the officer. The incisions were about an inch long and about 3 inches apart because the dog again tried to chomp on the back of my calf and had the back of my calf in its mouth. And what saved me was I was wearing a pair of thick jeans, which if I had been wearing shorts, the injury could have been far worse. So I am hiking back home. I've gone several miles today. My leg feels fine. I am optimistic that I'm going to recover fully from this incident, and that the dogs will be hopefully kept confined from this point on, and not be allowed to roam free anymore. So temperature today was near 70, but it did get down to 30 this morning. And still burning that anthracite coal. And I found a place that I'm able to buy it from about an hour away from here. So I'm planning on using it next winter, buying it in bulk. Also, I have taken a part-time job, for now at least, at a fish hatchery 1 day a week, to earn a little bit of extra money. It's not much, but it will make a difference, at least a little bit. Truck still has not sold. Although the person doing the rent to own for my property in Maine already has made the first payment. So that's a good sign that this person is going to be reliable in making their payments, hopefully. So that also helped. So getting into weather and climate, We did turn colder here in the eastern U.S. in March. The weather finally, for a time, got colder. We did get a couple of minor snowfalls here, but nothing much. More than a dusting. And meanwhile, California continues to get pummeled with storm after storm. Again, as I said before, last video, the Pacific is very cold right now. Of course, they're not going to disclose that. I've seen posts saying that the oceans are record warm, which is very false to me. There's no way the oceans could be record warm if the West Coast has had one of its coldest starts to the year on record. And we're almost into April. California continues, and Arizona as well continues to receive record amounts of snow due to the pattern that we're in. There's also been a lot of severe weather this year, but I believe that part of it is being enhanced because I don't believe the Gulf is warm enough right now to support the kind of severe weather that we've been getting. I believe they're enhancing these systems, as I've talked about, and are even capable of causing a situation to become a lot worse than it normally would have been severe weather-wise by injecting energy into these fronts and enhancing the convection, just like they do with the tropical storms and hurricanes. They appear to be injecting energy, creating supercells that could produce tornadoes where normally maybe there would not have been tornadoes. That's evident when you look at the infrared images of the cloud tops. You can see, if you look closely, unfortunately I don't have the capability of duplicating that on the video itself, but you notice, you look closely at the images, I call it the flame effect, where you look at the cloud images and it looks like one big giant flame emanating from a certain point. And where it's emanating from is where the energy is being shot. And so, a lot of this severe weather, I'm not saying necessarily all of it, but much of it is being enhanced. Now, hard to say how much of it is genuine and how much of it is because of enhancement, but I'd say a lot of it is enhancement. Of course, then what that happens is, like the tornado in Mississippi, the F4 last week, they're going to blame it all on climate change, or on global warming, which they've renamed climate change. So, however, given the weather pattern that we're in, with the West being very cold there is potential for severe weather outbreaks. However, what dilutes it is, as I've talked about before, the Gulf has been tapped out. The Gulf is not very warm. They say it is. The maps show it being warm, but we know how much they're lying about the data anymore, about anomalies, especially global sea surface temperature anomalies. The weather that's occurring does not support what their maps are showing. Example, there's been a long-term decline in hurricanes. That's why they started using this enhancement technology, which I believe has been going on for the past 4 or 5 years now. They're fine-tuning it to make it to where they can now create tornadoes with this technology. Storms that could produce tornadoes. As far as solar cycle 25 goes, we had a major geomagnetic storm about a week ago that caused auroras as far south as Florida, I saw, USA. And it has happened before. It's not unprecedented. As I stated in the past, I have seen times when I've seen an aurora personally as far south as North Carolina in my lifetime. When I lived there back in 1991. I used to see auroras in New Hampshire repeatedly. When I lived there in 1989, I would sit on the shore of Lake Winnipesaukee and watch the aurora. It was quite frequent that summer. But so far as X-class flares, we have not really seen any super strong X-flares. Cosmic ray count did dip down to below 5% briefly last week. It has come back up. It's still below average. I'm coming down a pretty steep slope here. I mean, the sunspot number, I know the last video it was at 171. I did do the research. It does appear that I went back to cycle 23 and looked at some images, and it appears that they're, at least between now and then, they're counting the sunspots the same way as they were back then. So I can't really say they're exaggerating the counts. However, it has gone back down to 120, maybe 110 a day sunspots. Which makes it maybe a little bit stronger than the last cycle so far. But I do feel that solar activity has reached the plateau. It's not going to continue ramping up. It's going to pretty much probably start to come down slightly before it hits the second peak in a couple of years. So that would make it a slightly stronger cycle. But are we really in a grand solar minimum? I don't know for sure. A lot of people say that, but they're basing their assumptions on just what one solar physicist, Sarkova, I think is her name, claims we're in a minimum right now, and they're basing it all on the opinions of one person. So I can't really say for certain that we're in a minimum or coming into a minimum. It remains to be seen, especially if this cycle does turn out stronger than the last one. It would mean that Valentina Starkova was wrong in her prediction. She was right about 24, which is why they're thinking she's going to be right again. But this cycle it is looking like it's going to be at least a little bit stronger than 24. So are we really going into a grand solar minimum? Well, it's really hard to say. The next 10 years, 20 years, we'll know. I mean, if cycle 26 turns out stronger and goes back to normal, then we're not going into a minimum. Meaning that all those predictions of global cooling aren't really going to play out as much. We need 2 consecutive, very weak cycles to initiate global cooling because the oceans store heat. They resist heat or global cooling because they store up heat to be released at later times into the atmosphere. So time will tell. So that is going to be it for this video. I will be back soon again for another update. I will be home probably in about 10 or 15 minutes. I just have to hang a right at the bottom here and go in that direction. And you can see in the distance where the trail goes. There is a trail down here that I follow that takes me toward the house. Alright, that is it for now.